My name is Reagan Cole. I'm 34. After 7 years working as a burn unit travel nurse on the other side of the planet, I flew home to surprise my mom in the $580,000 house I bought her with my own blood, sweat, and overtime. A woman I had never met in my life opened my own front door, looked me up and down like I was something to scrape off her shoe, and said, "Oh, the help's supposed to use the side entrance." The help was my mom, 63 years old, on her knees in the backyard in a stained apron, scrubbing algae off a patio for somebody else's dinner party, in the house that has my name and only my name on the deed. My brother and his wife had been living there 14 months. What I found inside that house was worse than what I found in that backyard. And what I did about it by 9 p.m. that same night is the reason my sister-in-law still tells people I destroyed this family. Every lock, every emergency contact, every line of my will. I changed it all before the sun went down. Stay with me, because here's the part none of them saw coming. The deed was zipped in my carry-on, and I had a 3 o'clock appointment with a lawyer they didn't even know I'd hired. If you're the calm one in your family, the one who pays quietly and never makes a scene, drop your city and what time it is where you're at right now, because somebody scrolling these comments tonight needs this story. And hit subscribe, because what happens at that dinner table is the part nobody believes actually happened. It did. I've got the paperwork. To explain that doorstep, I've got to go back 8 years to a kitchen table in Millbrook, Tennessee, covered in envelopes with red print on them. My dad, Walter Cole, dropped dead of a heart attack in his own driveway, scraping ice off his windshield. 59 years old. Good man, bad heart, thin insurance. By the time the funeral was paid, my mom, Diane, a seamstress who'd spent 30 years hemming other people's wedding gowns, was sitting on $68,000 of his medical debt. She was 55. I was 26, working nights, picking up every double and holiday shift the hospital would give me. It wasn't enough. The interest outran my paychecks. My brother Nathan was 29, married, building his own contracting business. I don't blame him for staying put. But somebody had to jump into the deep end, and it turned out to be me. A year after my dad died at 27, an agency called about a 2-year ICU contract in Singapore, nearly triple my pay, housing included. My mom drove me to the airport herself and pressed a tin of pecan sandies into my hands like I was 9, going to camp. "Don't you stay gone too long, baby," she said. I promised her 2 years. Turned into 7. Remember that math, because my brother never bothered to do it. People hear nurse overseas and picture beach photos. Here's what it actually looked like. 12-hour shifts in a burn unit where half my patients didn't speak English. Christmas mornings charting vitals while my family opened presents on a shaky video call. My grandmother's funeral, watched through a cracked phone propped against a break room microwave. My engagement ended politely in year 3. I can't keep being engaged to a time zone, Reagan. I paid off the last of my dad's debt in year 4, and cried in a stairwell for exactly 1 flight of stairs before wiping my face and going back to work. Then I opened a savings account and named it Magnolias. My mom had wanted a magnolia tree her whole life. She grew up with parents who never owned an acre, cleaned other people's houses as a teenager, then hemmed other people's fine clothes for 40 years. She used to slow the car down past the big houses on the good side of town and say quiet like she didn't deserve to say it louder someday. A porch and a magnolia tree. By year 5, Magnolias had $240,000 in it, and I was calling realtors from a hospital stairwell at 2 a.m. Some daughters send flowers. I was buying the whole yard. A year and a half ago, I bought her a white farmhouse on Birchwood Lane, the good side of Millbrook. $580,000. Big kitchen, wraparound porch, full southern sun in the back. I put down $230,000, took the mortgage in my own name, auto-paid from overseas, and closed at 3 a.m. Singapore time over video call. Our lawyer, Gerald Finch, careful 61, reads every clause 3 times, gave me advice I didn't fully appreciate then. Keep the deed in your name for now, Reagan. Con artists target women who suddenly own property. And frankly, keep it shielded from anybody's creditors. Anybody's. There was a half-second of silence because we both knew Nathan's business was already wobbling, and neither of us said his name. The plan was simple. On my next visit, we'd put the house in a trust, giving Mom a lifetime right to live there. Until then, the deed stayed in my name, and my mom told her church friends her daughter had helped out with the down payment so Nathan wouldn't feel small. Hold on to that kindness, it matters later. The day she got her keys, she cried into her cardigan, then planted a magnolia sapling before she'd unpacked a single box. She called it the house Reagan built. My dad used to say, "Take care of your mama." I thought I finally had. I had no idea the hard part hadn't started. Nathan is 37, an electrical contractor, 17 years in the trade, the kind of guy who could shake every hand on a job site and mean it. He married a woman named Brooke at the courthouse 3 years back while I was overseas and couldn't fly home. Brooke grew up rough, renters always. 13, a landlord put her family's furniture on the curb in the rain, and her middle school classmates walked past her mama's mattress sitting out wet. She told Nathan she'd never rent again in her life. I understand that scar. I just didn't know yet what she'd do to keep it covered. A year and a half ago, a big client stiffed Nathan on a $200,000 job and his business collapsed. 2 months later, the bank took his house. He called me once, not to ask for help, to refuse it. I offered a quiet, no-interest loan. He let the silence stretch, then said the sentence that's rattled in my skull since. "Money's easy to send from 6,000 miles away, Reagan. Try standing in the same room as the mess." He laughed like it was a joke. Neither of us believed it. Pride is expensive. I just didn't know who'd end up paying the bill. 14 months ago, Mom called with a small favor. "Baby, don't get upset. Nathan and Brooke need somewhere to land." Just a few weeks. Course I said yes, it was her house to share. I set 2 conditions on a 3-way call, temporary and Mom stays lady of the house. Nathan turned on the charm like he was greeting customers at a job walkthrough. "We'll take better care of Mom than she takes of herself." Brooke's voice floated in from off-camera, sugary. "We're just so grateful." That was the second time in my life I ever heard my sister-in-law's voice. Both times, she wasn't even in frame. 3 months in, Brooke's mother Pam came for a weekend after her landlord jacked her rent 40%. The weekend became a month. The month stopped getting counted. I asked Mom if a 4th adult was okay. There was a pause I didn't like before. "It's fine, sugar. The house is plenty big." I've replayed that pause 100 times. Nobody ever storms in and takes everything in one afternoon. It's a request here, a favor there, a small thing you'd feel petty saying no to until one day you look up and there's nothing left that's still just yours. A roof doesn't cave in all at once either. Sags quiet for months and you only notice the day it finally gives. 9 months ago, Mom had her hip replaced and that surgery became the hinge everything swung on. Nathan called, warm and organized. "We're setting Mom up downstairs, no stairs on that hip, doctor's orders." Sounded exactly like what I'd have suggested, which is what made it such a clean trap. Then her phone broke, and Sunday calls moved to a tablet that lived in the kitchen, with Nathan always drifting into frame. Mom started appearing in an apron, her hands red at the knuckles, dishwater red, not garden dirt red. "Mom loves staying busy," Nathan said whenever I asked. She smiled at the camera like a hostage reading a statement. I mailed her a new phone. Tracking said delivered, signed for. It never reached her. I offered to pay for a housekeeper. Nathan chuckled it off. "We're family, we don't need strangers in the house." 1 month she said quiet, "Money's a little tight, baby," then changed the subject like she'd touched a hot stove. I didn't fly home immediately because my unit was mid-accreditation and I was leading it. Walking out meant losing my visa and abandoning 40 patients. 2 things finally sent me to the airport. First, a birthday flower delivery with photo confirmation showed my mom, on her own 62nd birthday, hanging laundry in a threadbare housecoat while somebody clearly hosted company inside. Second, an email from Dot Simmons, Mom's oldest church friend, 71 and sharp as a needle. "Is your mom all right, hon?" Da had watched my mom hauling groceries across a flooded parking lot in the rain while a younger blonde woman sat dry in the car, scrolling her phone. She ended with one line that took the skin off me. "I don't like to meddle, but somebody's been rearranging your mother, and I figured her daughter ought to know." I read that in a supply closet at 3 a.m. and went cold and calm the way I go when a patient starts crashing. Accreditation had just cleared. I booked the flight and told nobody in Tennessee, not Mom and especially not Nathan. I emailed Gerald Finch and confirmed the appointment we'd planned for 2 years. Friday, 3 p.m., sign the trust. I zipped the deed and closing papers into my carry-on. 34 hours in the air and I rehearsed one sentence, "Surprise, Mom." I never got to say it. If you've ever booked a flight home not knowing what you'd find, tell me your city right now in the comments. I want to know how many of us have lived this fear. Subscribe because the driveway is where it gets worse. The rideshare turned onto Birchwood Lane at 10:40 that Friday, and a strange black SUV sat crooked in the driveway. I rang my own doorbell like a stranger, ball cap, sunglasses, 34 hours of airplane air still on me. Brooke opened the door in a silk robe, coffee mug in hand, and looked me over the way you'd inspect produce. She'd posted a classified ad that week for a part-time house helper ahead of tonight's party, so when she saw a tired woman in a ball cap with a duffel bag, she didn't see family. "Oh, you're here about the cleaning," she said, already turning away. "She's out back, the maid. She'll show you what needs doing." The maid. Then her phone rang and she walked off, leaving my own front door hanging open like I was a draft. I stepped into my own foyer like a trespasser. New candles smell. New photos on the mantel, Brooke and Nathan at the courthouse, Pam holding wine at a barbecue. My dad's picture gone, replaced with a sign that said, "Bless this mess." From the backyard came a scrape, then a slosh, over and over. A scrub brush on stone. I walked toward it already knowing, the way you know bad news through a door, exactly who I'd find. My mom knelt on a foam pad, scrubbing the patio in a black apron. 63, 9 months off hip surgery, on stone. Her magnolia sapling had been shoved into a plastic pot in the shady corner to make room for new patio furniture, tags still on. "Mom," I said. She turned, and for half a second I got the whole sunrise, her face lifting, my name breaking open in her mouth. "Reagan." Then the light slammed shut. Her eyes cut to the windows, checking. She scrambled up, wincing, gripped my arms, and whispered in her own backyard, "Honey, you can't just show up, they don't like surprises." They. She hugged me hard, then held me at arm's length like contraband. Her hands were thinner than her gardening gloves, knuckles cracked. "Brooke's got her supper club tonight. Keeps me busy," she said when I asked why she was scrubbing stone on her knees. Then, almost to herself, "You didn't hear that part about the money, okay?" She clapped a hand over her own mouth, eyes wide, like the words had gotten loose before she could stop them. She wouldn't explain. So I asked to see her room. That's when the tour of my own house became a walkthrough of a crime scene. She led me to a converted mudroom off the laundry, a folding cot, a card table with her pills lined up, boxes labeled Diane still packed after 9 months. Her wedding photo sat on the windowsill next to a jug of detergent. The washer shared a wall with her pillow. That was her room. Upstairs, Nathan and Brooke had the master because of my hip, the stairs. Pam had Mom's old room, the good morning light. The third bedroom was Brooke's craft studio, and the magnolia wallpaper Mom had waited 63 years to pick out had been stripped. "Florals date a house," Brooke had said, and there wasn't an ounce of anger in how Mom repeated it, which scared me worse than anger would have. On the fridge, held by a pizza magnet, a laminated chart. Diane laundry Mon/Thursday. Diane bathrooms Tuesday. Diane dinner daily. A chore chart, laminated so it would last, taped up in the house I paid for in full. The garage door rumbled and Mom's hand clamped my sleeve. "That's Nathan. Please be nice." He came in with groceries and chose, in half a breath, a delighted face. Big hug, big laugh, the same easy grin he used to close a sale. Brooke appeared and recalculated fast. "You should have called, I'd have made up the guest room." "What guest room?" The house was full. From the living room, a voice rang out like a bell for staff. "Diane!" "Iced tea, lemon." That was Pam, 60, installed in my mother's old room, summoning her by first name. I asked, pleasant as I could manage, why Mom slept next to a washing machine. "Stairs are bad for her hip." "You'd know that if you were ever around," Nathan said kindly, which made it obscene. Brooke set 4 plates and a 5th on a tray. "Mom likes eating in her room," she explained about my mother, standing right there. I pulled out the chair beside mine. "Sit with me, Mom." 3 seconds of total stillness, like I'd pulled a fire alarm. Mom sat, hands folded like a kid called to the principal's office. "We have a system here," Brooke said, smile thinning to wire. "Everybody earns their keep." Pam added, "It's called contributing, dear. Our generation understands responsibility." Her generation is 3 years younger than my mom's. Nathan talked over it all, a fire pit, new decking, and down the line, maybe we get something with acreage. Sell, easy as passing salt, about a house that wasn't his, while Mom kept her eyes on her plate. I said I needed the bank after my flight. Even true. In the kitchen I'd already spotted opened mail with Mom's name behind the plastic window. A store card statement, $3,500 in charges, a boutique, a day spa, restaurant tabs the size of car payments. My mom hasn't sat in a salon chair since the funeral, and the signature wasn't even a decent forgery of her hand. If somebody in your family has ever quietly lived off a parent and called it helping out, drop the word Magnolia in the comments. This next part is exactly why I flew home. With the faucet running loud on purpose, Mom whispered the shape of the money. Brooke had borrowed the store card. And every month, Mom handed Nathan $600 cash from Social Security. He called it grocery money, collected her word on the 3rd, one day after her check landed. 14 months running. I did the math the same cold way I calculate drug doses. $8,400 in cash, $3,500 on the card, $11,900 total, off a widow whose entire check is $1,800 a month. "Don't say anything, he gets loud about money," she whispered. I told her we were going to the bank right now. While she hunted for her shoes, her Bible slipped, and an envelope fell out of Psalms into my hand. I shouldn't have opened it. I'm glad every day that I did. An application for Sunrise Meadows Senior Apartments in her careful cursive. Behind it, a waiting list confirmation from 3 weeks prior. Behind that, a receipt for a $60 deposit saved in 1s and 5s, because who counts out $60 in singles unless somebody's already collecting the rest? My mother was planning to quietly move herself out of the house her own daughter bought her, so she wouldn't burden the people already living entirely off of her. She caught me holding it and straightened up with that seamstress dignity of hers. "It's a real clean building, Reagan. Nice little balcony, room enough for 1 window box. 1 window box." I'd bought her 1/3 of an acre of full southern sun. I folded the application into my jacket, flat against my chest. "Nobody's going anywhere, Mom," I said. "Except the people upstairs." In the car, Mom talked the whole drive. It started kind. Nathan fixed the gutters. Brooke cooked. Then the surgery, and my furniture never came back up with me. Then the chart on the fridge, just to keep things fair. Then my phone never came back from the shop. Every step had a good reason attached to it, one you couldn't argue with right then. It was never one big ask. It was always some small thing, and I never once saw where all the small things were adding up to. Why hadn't she told me? If you came home early, you'd lose your visa your whole career. I wasn't going to cost you your life twice. Then the sentence that rearranged my whole afternoon: when I moved to Sunrise Meadows, the house passes to Nathan someday. Maybe that settles him. It's his only real shot at anything anymore. She believed the house was already flowing toward her son. My hands stayed steady on the wheel. "Mom, that house was never his to inherit. It's mine. And by tonight, it's yours in a way nobody can ever touch again." At the bank, an older teller leaned in. "We flagged some activity once. The gentleman on the account said it was rent." 9 months earlier, Mom had added Nathan as an authorized user to help with bills, and removing him required both parties present, and Nathan had stayed busy for 3 straight months of Saturdays. The statements came off warm. Social Security lands on the second, $600 out on the third, 14 times running like a metronome. We opened a new account in her name and mine, redirected her Social Security, froze the old account, and filed a dispute on the card charges. At Gerald Finch's office, old paper and lemon polish, my favorite smell in Tennessee, the deed came out creased from 34 hours of flying. By 4 o'clock, for signatures deep. The trust, giving Mom an untouchable lifetime right to live in the house. Not even by me, I made him write. My will rewritten, everything to Mom, then a nursing scholarship in my dad's name. Nathan's name doesn't appear. 3 revocation letters effective that night for Nathan, Brooke, and Pam. A repayment agreement, $11,900 at $200 a month. Gerald allowed himself one dry smile. People who leave by choice can't play the victim later. He asked what got me on the plane. I told him about the doorstep. He took his glasses off. She called your mother the help? In your house. Technically, I said, tonight I'm about to be extremely helpful. If somebody's version of this is happening in your family right now, drop your city and the time on your clock. I read every comment, and you are not the only one watching tonight who needed this. From the bank parking lot, I started working down a list, methodical item by item, the same way I'd triage a patient chart. Emergency contact at Mom's clinic changed from Nathan to me. Then the receptionist asked, would you also like to update the healthcare proxy from last fall? 9 months back, right after surgery, somebody had put new medical decision paperwork in front of Mom while she was still foggy on pain medication, and Nathan had walked away holding it. We voided it and executed a new one, notarized, eyes open. In the car, she defended him anyway, the way mothers do until their last breath, no matter what the math says. He used to carry my groceries in when he was 9. I know, Mom. I'm not punishing the boy who carried your groceries. I'm stopping the man who took your bedroom. She nodded once, slow, like a stitch pulled tight. Simmons called, tickled about an invitation she didn't understand yet. I asked one favor. Sit next to Mom tonight. Honey, said, I've been praying somebody would show up. By 5:30, the house was Brooke's stage set, cloth napkins, candles like runway lights, and on the buffet, Mom's wedding china from 1988. Pam asked where it came from. Oh, it came with the house, Brooke said, breezy as a catalog page. Came with the house. Their entire worldview sitting on one shelf. Brooke held the black apron out to Mom in front of me, a dare. I took it and tied it on myself. I'll play Mom's part tonight. Brooke, satisfied her help problem had solved itself, never once asked why a woman would fly 34 hours to volunteer for kitchen duty. The one pouring the tea hears every table. Invisible is the best seat in the house. 6:30, 6 guests arrived, church ladies, cul-de-sac neighbors, and Dot with a lemon cake and a wink only I caught. Brooke gave the tour. $580,000, right time to buy. Nathan's got plans for the backyard fire pit right where those old shrubs are. A guest asked about the sweet woman always watering them. Brooke laughed a rehearsed laugh. Nathan's mom stays with us. Practically family staff. Pam, 3 glasses deep, went further. We took Diane in. Family looks after family. Took her in her own dining room off her own china. Nathan cornered me by the coat closet. Whatever you think you're doing, I'm serving dinner, Nathan. Sit down. He searched my face, found something new, and sat. Main course went out at 7:15. My locksmith texted at 7:30, on schedule 2 houses down. Nathan stood and dinged his glass. To family. Real family shows up. Some folks chase money overseas and mail home a check. A little laugh from Brooke and Pam. A cul-de-sac woman leaned in. Isn't that Nathan's sister? Brooke answered for the room, she's shy. That's when Mom stood up, hip and all. Her name is Reagan and this is my... Sit, Nathan said like a gavel. Silence. My mom standing alone in the silence her son had built for 14 months. The last brick. I untied the apron and laid it over a chair. Actually, Nathan, I'd love to toast. I pulled a manila folder from my carry-on. But first, whose name is on this house? Nathan, it's Mom's house. Family house. Brooke, what kind of question is that? Pam, delighted to be called on. Dan's, obviously. And one day, when the Lord calls her home, she stopped one breath too late. Every woman at that table heard where it was going. Dot's teacup hit its saucer like a gavel of its own. I slid the deed across the table. Read the grantee line out loud, Nathan. You told me once that money from far away doesn't count for much. Let's see if this piece of paper changes your mind. He read it smiling, the last smile of a man certain the world still owed him a break, and I watched it die halfway down the page, the color draining out of him the way it does 30 seconds before a monitor confirms what you already know. Reagan Marie Cole, he read, and a spoon rang against china. I kept my voice flat. Paper 1, the deed mine, auto-paid, never late. Paper 2, as of 4 o'clock, this house sits in a trust. Mom holds a lifetime right to live here. Cannot be sold, borrowed against, or inherited around. There is no future where this becomes yours, Nathan. I laid the letters down like dealing cards. Paper 3, permission to occupy revoked, effective tonight. Nathan. Brooke. Pam. Brooke shot up so fast her chair barked the floor. This is our home. No, I said, quieter than her by half. It's the house Mom has a lifetime right to, in the walls I own. You've been guests who made the owner scrub the patio on her bad hip for tonight's party. Dot rose and stood beside Mom. Church ladies stood too. Brooke went shrill about ingratitude. Pam found her pulpit voice. In my day, family did not. I laid the laminated chore chart beside the deed. In your day, did dinner guests assign the homeowner bathroom duty? Brooke jabbed a finger at me. You think you can waltz in? This morning, I said, you told me the help's supposed to use the side entrance. That was our mother. Nathan roared up, slammed the table hard enough to jump the candles. You were never here. I waited for the wine to go still. I'm here now. That's all I've got for you. He looked around the room and found nobody left to perform for. I laid the bank statements beside the chore chart. 14 months, $600 cash on the 3rd, $3,500 on a card that isn't your signature, $11,900 off a widow living on $1,800 a month. Tennessee's got a felony statute for that. So here's your one choice, Nathan, not two. You're out by 9. Sign the repayment agreement, $200 a month, or Monday morning I walk these statements into the police department with 6 witnesses who just heard every word. To Brooke gently because it was true. You know what an eviction feels like? You watched your own mother's furniture sit in the rain. I'm offering you the thing that landlord never offered, a way out with your dignity tonight. Take it. Nathan folded into his chair, hands over his face. I lost the business, Reagan. Then the house. I couldn't be the man who lost everything twice under this roof. Mom's hand lifted toward him. He swatted it away and jabbed a finger at Brooke. This is on her. Brooke spun on him. My idea? Who told me his own mother liked feeling useful? And there they were, feeding on each other in front of 6 guests, while Mom quietly lowered her hand. The guests left the way people leave a graveside. Dot marched into the kitchen and put the kettle on. Stairs drawers slammed. Pam tried negotiating from the staircase. Surely one more week. Your daughter's cousin has a couch, Pam. You've got until 9. Nathan signed the agreement at my dad's old oak table with a pen from his dead company, logo half worn off. My locksmith moved door to door while suitcases growled down the driveway. New locks going in, old tenants going out. Satisfaction has a soundtrack, that's it. At 8:52, Brooke came down last, threw the house keys on the console hard enough to scratch the wood, and got her face close to mine. You'll die alone in this house. I held the door open. No. My mom almost did. Drive safe. I closed it soft as a whisper, the click of a woman with nothing left to slam. 9. The locksmith pressed 2 sets of new keys into my hand. The deadbolt turned over with the most peaceful click I'd heard in 7 years. Emergency contacts changed. The will and trust, a text from Gerald, executed. Every line. Dot and I carried Mom's things back up the stairs she'd been banished from. Her photo went on the dresser, her Bible on the nightstand, no envelope inside Psalms. Mom stood in the middle of that big room, turning slow, like checking whether a dream still had its corners. Then she sat on the bed and smoothed the quilt with cracked hands, careful, like it belonged to someone else. Then she remembered it was hers. That's when she finally let herself go. Not the crying of a woman in pain, but the crying of a woman who's just remembered she's allowed to take up space in her own home. What do I do with this whole room, Reagan? Sleep in it, Mom. That's the whole job now. I found the black apron, folded it, and dropped it in a box of Brooke's forgotten things on the porch. It was never Mom's uniform. It was their flag. They could keep it. Then Mom and Dot and I drank sweet tea at my dad's oak table in the quietest kitchen in Tennessee. Nathan and Brooke are on her cousin's couch. He's running a forklift on nights, and the first $200 hit Mom's account right on time. I don't need his apology. I need his autopay. Pam's renting near her other daughter, who apparently keeps her own chore chart. Brooke's supper club never met again, though those same 6 neighbors visit Mom every Sunday now, straight through the front door with cake. Dot sits at her right hand like a duchess. Mom's back in her pew. Her magnolia sapling got replanted dead center in the yard, the sunniest spot, exactly where the fire pit was supposed to go. It's already thrown 3 new leaves. The Sunrise Meadows application came back out of my pocket on my last morning home. Her choice now, always. She tore it in half and dropped it in the compost bucket. Compost? I asked. Ought to at least feed the roots, she said. I signed a new rotation before flying out, 8 weeks on, 4 weeks home, and my 4 weeks belong to a bedroom with fresh magnolia wallpaper going back up because florals date a house and so do widows, and I intend for both to keep dating it a long, long time. Nathan texted once, "Can we talk?" I stood in the yard with a hose in my hand a long while. He carried Mom's groceries in when he was 9. He also collected $600 a month out of her shaking hand while she slept beside a washing machine. I sent back the only terms I had. When the last payment clears, then we'll see who shows up. He hasn't answered. The magnolia has. That's enough accounting for 1 year. My dad used to say, "Take care of your mama." Never with a lot of words. Took me 7 years overseas and 1 dinner party to learn the whole meaning of that sentence. You take care of her, not with words, not even just with money, but with your name on the right paper, your feet in the right doorway, and your voice calm and unshaking on the one night it counts. That's my story. 1 flight home, 1 manila folder, and a mother finally asleep in the bedroom she always deserved. This reminded you to check whose name is on a deed, or who's listed as your parent's emergency contact. Do it this week. If you've ever watched somebody mistake a parent's kindness for weakness, share this with the one person who needs to hear it tonight. And before you go, drop your city and the time on your clock right now. I read every comment, and somebody scrolling tonight needs to know they're not the only one. Comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.